Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Mental Wellness Cindy with me, Cindy. Today, in a continuation of the narcissistic series that I'm doing, we're going to be talking about why the narcissist devalues you. Okay, so they do it to increase their own sense of self. So it's very important for you to know that it's not about you. It's not about what you're doing. It's not about what you're not doing. It's about them as a person. So narcissists can have a really high sense of self-esteem, but it's very fragile. So it's very easy for that to crumble and for them to get the validation that they need. The validation is very much dependent on their grandiose fantasies, their sense of thinking that they're better than everybody else around them. They're more handsome, more successful, they're the savior of people. People would not be able to survive without them. All of that is very important and very much integral to this sense of self. And so for them to keep this fragile sense of self together, they need to put other people down, because when somebody is down, somebody else has to be upright. It's a bit like a seesaw when we were children, or for some of us grown-ups that still go on seesaws. It's a bit like going on seesaws, because when they put you down, it makes them feel better, it makes them feel superior. That's why they do it. Again, it's got nothing to do with what you're doing or what you're not doing. It's all to do with what is going on for them. And I'm not saying that as a way of excusing their behavior. I'm saying that as a way of helping you to understand that you will not be able to fix a narcissist. Even if you're the best of whatever, the best wife, the best partner, the best husband, the best anything to them, you will not, the best child, because, there's some narcissistic parents out there. You will not be able to fix them, because it's all irregardless of what you do. And their behavior is manipulative and it's abusive, because it damages your self-esteem, it damages your mental health, it destroys your self-worth, all in their attempt to make themselves, their fragile egos, feel better. And when you then fall out with a narcissist and you're not in a loving relationship, and so there's not even consideration for you, not that there ever was anyway, even when you're with them, then be prepared if you're one of those people who is going to stand up against them. And if you're going to speak up about the abuse that you suffered at their hands, about the abuse that other people suffered at their hands, that everybody else doesn't see, because they're also they can be very charismatic, they can be very good with people, and so everybody thinks it's you, there's something wrong with you. It's not the narcissist. They're an absolutely perfect, loving, amazing, giving, all of these things, because again, it all plays into their weird dynamics and weird games that they have, where with you they'll be manipulative and abusive. in private, and then in front of people, they all of a sudden become very social, very bubbly, very, you know, this amazing person that you wish they would be with you when there's nobody else around. If you then, once that relationship has ended, decide to either speak the truth or to go against anything or any terms, because they will set some terms that you should, even though you're no longer with them, that you need to live your life by, that they're, because it's, again, it's all about managing their ego. If you don't live by those terms, be prepared for the smear campaign, be prepared for legal battles, be prepared for the fight of your life, because that's when their self-defense, the protecting the self-ego goes into overdrive. And examples of this are, say, if you'd been married to a narcissist and you have children and you have to go through legal battles, of which there will be many, then you need to be prepared for awful, awful lies to be told about you. You need to be prepared for the most awful smear campaign you've ever experienced, the most awful hate that anyone could give towards you. That's what you need to be prepared for, because again, it's all about maintaining this very fragile ego of theirs. And in those legal battles, if they lose something, if they lose a round or a case or whatever, be prepared for endless appeals, because the battle is not over until they've won. Only when they've won is the battle over. Until then, it's not over. The battle is over when they say it's over. And if you decide to be reasonable and try and negotiate or mediate things out of court, which I would never advise, then you're only ever going to be able to reach an agreement if you are prepared to agree to all the terms that they've set. Because if you remember those terms and conditions that you have to live by, it's like, you know, all those terms and conditions that you have to sign when you buy something or when you're, you know, signing up for something. It's a bit like that. And if you then step out of those terms and conditions, you will experience the wrath of a narcissist. And they will do absolutely everything in their power to ensure that everybody who knows them, who knows you, knows how awful, knows how abusive, knows, you know, what kind of a terrible person you are, with absolutely no evidence whatsoever to support that view. And the more you fight it, the more they will share this perspective, false perspective of you with the world. But here on Mental Wellness Cindy, it's very important to talk about the narcissist devaluing, what it is, so you can recognize it. But it's also about talking about what you need to do to protect yourself. Because like I always say, you need to look after your mental health. You need to look after your emotional health. You need to look after your physical health. You just generally need to look after your well-being. Because if you're emotionally, mentally, and physically in a good place, regardless of what someone else does, it's not going to affect you as to the same point as when you're not doing anything to look after yourself. So it's important that you look after your emotional health. So when someone starts attacking you, when someone starts putting false information about you onto social media for other people to see, even when when you challenge it and they clearly tell you there is no evidence to support the information they're putting out about you, they will make it clear they're still going to share it anyway. You then need to be in a position where you can step back from all the noise, because what they want is they want you, because it's all about narcissistic fuel. Are you going to be the person who then provides them with narcissistic fuel and you start arguing over everything, when really you can step back, look at the bigger picture? Because with every situation, no matter how hard, no matter how difficult, there is a bigger picture to be considered. So you look at those micro things that they're doing to you, and you need to step back and look at your life and look at the world as well, and sort of think about, do I need to engage with this person, or can I step back and deal with it in a clever way? If you watch my video from last week when I spoke about wrestling with pigs, and I think the third point that I spoke about in that video was around not showing all your cards, being strategic in your approach. It's the same, and you're constantly going to have to remind yourself to be strategic, to not show your cards, to stop being emotional, to stop overreacting, and to consider the bigger picture, and to think about who else is affected, what's the best way to deal with this that does not put you in direct conflict with a narcissist and does not leave you providing narcissistic fuel for that narcissist. So today, again, I'm going to share 4 steps, 4 things that if you're in a situation where you're being devalued by a narcissist, you can put in place to protect yourself so that you can carry on being able to look after your children if you have children, to look after yourself, to be able to work, look after your mental health, emotional health, physical health. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is keeping yourself well and not getting too affected by what the narcissist is doing, because they're not going to stop. They will stop when they get bored and they sort of realize that you're not going to play the game and you're not going to be narcissistic fuel. But you don't know when that is. And it could be a very long time. It could take years. And you can't put your life on hold to deal with somebody wanting to put you down just to, manage their bruised ego. So the first thing you can do is setting boundaries. And this is something I've spoken about several times in a lot of the videos that I've done. And setting boundaries is important, but sticking to them is even more important. And it doesn't matter what the narcissist does, you need to set your boundaries and you need to stick to them. And narcissists hate having boundaries imposed, so you can absolutely be sure that there will be pushback. And you need to prepare yourself for that. And if you need to get to the point of blocking them from being able to contact you, so on your phone, text messages, social media, and if you co-parent with a narcissist, then you need to use the grey rock method, which is just exchanging crucial information that is required to enable both of you to care for the children, and you stop the communication there. So you become the most boring, dullest person that they've ever spoken to. There is no reaction, no emotional response, none of all of these other things that they're looking for in narcissistic fuel. You become a very boring version of all of those things. And you keep that in place for as long as possible. And as part of that grey rocking, it's also being clear with your personal boundaries. So no sharing of personal information, because you can absolutely bet your bottom dollar that information will be shared with people inappropriately and it will be used against you. The second thing that you need to do is, after surviving narcissistic abuse, you need to acknowledge the abuse that you have been through. And whether that is past or that is present, so it's still going on. And sometimes it can be hard to imagine that somebody you're once romantically linked with, a family member, a friend, could now be behaving narcissistically towards you and not considering your feelings and not caring that they are hurting you. But this is how narcissistic people function, and you need to acknowledge the abuse that you've been through. And this is a very important step for you to go towards healing. And mental health issues do not excuse abuse. So don't excuse them because you say it's a mental health problem. Mental health does not excuse abuse. The third thing you need to do is you need to learn more about narcissistic behaviors, because being able to identify these behaviors and the tactics that narcissistic people often use makes it both easier for you to come to terms with your abuse, because then you'll have more information on how narcissistic people function and the tactics that they use, and you then can put in place strategies to help you reduce the negative impact of their behaviors on you, and if you have children, on you and your children. Okay, so it's very important to educate yourselves on narcissism if you think you're experiencing narcissistic abuse. The fourth thing is take care of yourself and reclaim your identity. For me, this is very important. So if you changed your looks, if you changed your style, if you lost your friends, if you lost your family because of a narcissist, then you need to reclaim these things, which are very important in terms of identity and in terms of well-being for all of us. And the fifth thing is, do not criticize yourself for abuse, because no one deserves abuse, and the narcissist's abuse is not your fault. Instead, what you need to do is you need to forgive yourself and you need to move on. And I will say this again, you need to educate yourself, and then you need to focus on protecting yourself and protecting those around you who cannot protect themselves. And of course, going on into future relationships, into other things that you're doing, because you now have the knowledge, just being better at identifying narcissistic people and putting measures in place to protect yourself. Because sometimes if it's people you have to work with, then there's not a lot you can do, but you can put strategies in place so that, you know, that relationship does not become abusive. But you need to remember that when a narcissist devalues you, it is more to do with them than it is to do with you. And it is all about preserving their fragile egos. I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, then please subscribe to the channel so you can keep on receiving more information, and press the like button and share this video with someone who you think might find it useful. I will be continuing with this narcissistic series because it is something that we absolutely need to talk about. Narcissists are very hard to identify, and they slip through the cracks, and they cause so much pain and so much harm in people's lives. And I feel that the more we talk about it, the more people will have the knowledge to be able to identify these individuals and be able to protect themselves from this abuse going forward. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.